and welcome to the Calmcast, a time to feel calm and think clearly. I'm Claire Downham, the Queen of Calm, a transformational life coach. I was a burnt-out head teacher who finally made the journey to calm after years of trying, and I want to prevent you from having to do the same. The Calmcast is a series of short explorations, gently guiding you back to your natural state, which is calm and clarity. Just listen like you would listen to music, with an open mind and curiosity. There's nothing else to do. Now let's relax into today's episode. So today, let us consider the voice in your head. And I know you have one. We all do, don't we? That voice that is perhaps telling us how to behave, telling us what's right and wrong in the outside world, and very much telling us what's right and wrong about us. That voice that tells us things about the past and encourages us to get involved in that voice that tells us about the future and all the stories that might be there. That voice is there all the time, isn't it? It never really goes away. Perhaps when we're asleep, but then in our dreams, perhaps that's that voice too. In fact, it definitely is the same stuff. And when I consider my relationship with that voice and how it's changed over time, I think it's gone from a stage where I treated it like it was who I was, that voice was telling me the truth about everything, to the point where really nobody else's truth was right. I was right, and anybody who wasn't doing life like me, they were wrong, stupid, whatever, whether they were just another driver on the road or another parent or a member of staff in my team or whatever. I had a lot of faith, I think is the word. I had a lot of faith in that voice. I trusted that voice. I thought it was the content of me, that it was who I was, and therefore there was not any other option other than to obey it, to do what it said, to think what it thought, to behave in the way it wanted me to react from the place of that voice. All of that looked really real. And I love what Michael Neal says. He says, it's not the voice of God. But I definitely thought it was. I thought that voice in my head has everything I need to know. It's the truth. And that voice, it's there telling us things about that outside world, but mainly it tells us some really unhelpful things about ourselves. Tells us that we're not really good enough, we can't really do that, you're going to look stupid, other people are going to judge you, and that is not helpful. And it also sometimes, guys, tells us to do things that are not good for us. My thing was eating food that wasn't so healthy, or perhaps drinking too much alcohol, or whatever it was. There was always something that voice was guiding me towards that was not helpful. And I guess I had a realization a few years ago that there was something about that voice that wasn't quite as reliable as I had previously thought it was. And then there was a phase of trying to get rid of it. And maybe for a moment now, just consider yourself. Which stage are you at there? Do you think that voice in your head is the truth, the whole truth and nothing but the truth? Or have you started to doubt it and started to question it and started to think, I'm not really very sure about that voice. Is it right? Is it true? And then comes, I think, a stage, as we get that kind of doubt about that voice in our head, and we get to a stage where where we think, well, let's try and change it then. Let's try and manipulate it. Let's try and make it behave in a different way. Let's try and make some different words come out. And that phase for me was a good few years of trying to change, to dampen down, to manipulate, to rally against, I suppose, that voice in my head. And that involved a lot of work. So if you think about the journey there, I've gone from totally believing this thing that was in my head, this voice, the instructions, to really like questioning it and thinking it's not okay, but not seeing that it's the same stuff. The stuff, the thought that's directing my self-development and my view of me and not being okay and needing to improve is the same stuff as the voice that I'm trying to address. And when you think about that, it is like, I don't know, it's trying to fix your own broken leg with no experience of surgery or anything else. It's not trying to do your own brain surgery, maybe, with your kitchen knives. It's just it's just not going to work, because it's almost like we're just retangling the thing. We're just creating more thoughts that are not really true, based on a foundation of thoughts that were not true anyway. And that for me meant cycle after cycle of different tools and techniques, miracle mornings and affirmations and meditation and hypnosis and tapping and all sorts of other things to try and change the way I thought, which of course, that's where our feelings come from. So it was about trying to change how I felt, and also, how I then behaved. And that was a lot of hard work, and it took a lot of time, the self-development journey. And recently I was considering the people who come to me, and they are the people who have had enough of that, who have realised that having to do an hour every single day of miracle morning or whatever else we're doing, this whole concept of needing to start the day in a particular way, all of that, they've had enough, because it always seems like there's more to do, that the voice keeps going, doesn't it? It keeps popping up, that voice we don't want to hear in our heads. It keeps popping up, it keeps popping up. And so we can end up trapped in this continual self-development. And as well as all those tools and techniques, there's all the books and the podcasts and the shows on YouTube and following people on Instagram who are self-development people. And there's a lot of it. There's a lot. It seems like there's a lot to do, and it's tiring. For me anyway. You may be in the midst of it and absolutely loving every minute, and your self-development is your joy and you really enjoy it. But I reached a point, like many people I speak to, where I had got sick of me being a part-time job for me to do, the fixing of me being that part-time job. And maybe that's where you are now. And then there is this, well, for me, it feels like the start of the final phase, which is almost akin to not giving an absolute chuff what passes through my head anymore. And that has come from seeing what that stuff is actually made of, seeing the quality of it, seeing that it has been just stuff I've picked up, stuff I've misunderstood as a child, things people said to me when they were upset and angry and therefore not in helpful thinking. It's all just that. And as time goes on, there's a noticing that then all sorts of things can appear in my head and I really don't care. Sometimes I'll listen to them, sometimes I don't. They always just pass, because that is the nature of thought. This concept we have of ourselves, I am seeing so much now, is It is all made of the same thing there. Seeing what's wrong with us is made of the same thing as the thing we're viewing as what's wrong with us. It's all made of the same stuff. It's all created thought that was never ours in the first place. It's just not us. We are the thinker of those thoughts, but we're not the thoughts, and it is not the voice of God. And nudge by nudge, with the help of people I speak to and things that I, listen to, that voice is looking less like something I need to do anything about or take seriously. And that's freedom. That's peace. Knowing that you're okay, because you are. You might have some crappy thinking that you could see past a little bit, which would be helpful. But that's all. That's all. You are gold inside. You are peace and love and wisdom, and that is the truth of you, not any of that stuff inside your head. Thank you so much for listening. There's nothing to do now but bring some awareness to how this is working out in your life. Listen regularly to experience longer and longer periods of calm. This has been the Calmcast with Claire Downham, Queen of Calm. Take care and keep listening.